Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night for everyone. It's up to your location now. And for today, we are going to study about the health visualization and presentation. So after complete these topics, students can describe the concepts of data visualization and the guideline for effective data visualization, and also able to define the visualization tools and the benefits of data visualization. For the outlines in these topics include guidelines for effective data visualization tools, benefits of data visualization in healthcare. So what is data visualization? This is a graphical representation of information and data using visual elements such as charts, graphs, plots, maps, infographics, and the animations. So this means it's turn raw data into visuals, which make patterns, trends, and connection easier to see and understand. So both experts and regular people can quickly understand what the data means and can help people to make better decisions and tell the story with data. So why the number are not enough? Number alone can be hard to understand because they don't show patterns or trend clearly, and too many numbers can confuse people. Look at this table. So if I argue which categories have the largest sales and which has the smallest, and another question is in which month the corporate category was not at the top. Answering these questions using spreadsheets is not so easy. So if I put uh, raw data into this graph, it's easier to find unusual months when you look at the data in a line chart like this. You can quickly see which month did not follow the trend. Using a line chart makes it clear when something changed or did not go as expected. And sometimes we can highlight the table. You can highlight the low and high values to stand out it clearly. For example, this is the own table, and then you can use the different color or shading to highlight the data. By highlighting key values, so leaders can quickly interpret the information and make the data analysis and decision make more efficient and effective. Sometimes you can use heat maps for low and high values, while attack tables show the numbers. For example, this is a call centers activity by day and time. So you can see the darker cells highlight area of activity. And you can see on Thursday at 12 p.m. this quite busy than other. And what about comparing core activity for each day of the week and each hour of the day and determine which day has the most core and which has the least? You can get the answers by placing a bar chart along right side and bottom of the highlight table like this. Put like this and like this. And look for the bar that are longer than others. Now you can see that the day with the most call are Wednesday and Friday. And the most popular hours are 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. So you will find the answer much faster than if you try to compare and remember the numbers. So this is a trick. And for the guidelines for effective data visualization, this include organized data, simplic- simplicity, display attributes, patterns or details, start at zero, use comparable lengths, connect the dot, and color need to have a purpose. For the guideline one, the data organization. Before you create a visualization, you need to make sure that your data is well organized. The raw data often needs to be clean, grouped, or summarized to show meaningful insights. You need to group the data into clear relevance categories and use combine or compare data for a bigger picture. Or sometimes you need to specific the data to explore key details. For example, this is a raw data, so you need to group them like this to easy understand. And the next guidelines, simplicity or keep it clean and clear. You need to use a simple and clean layout because sometimes charts can confuse the reader and hide important information. And you need to avoid using the 3D charts because this can make it hard to compare the values. And you need to remove unnecessary graph chunks such as grid lines, dark backgrounds, shading, or the regions that are not useful. Or you need to simplify the large numbers. You need to make them easier to list. For example, you need to use M instead of millions or use K instead of thousands. So this shows 3D pie graph. So this may cause confusion interpreting results. But if you change from this type to the bar graph, you can communicate the meaning of the data more effectively than a 3D pie graph. And the display attributes, you need to use the light visual elements to show data clearly. How we use shapes, position, size, and color can impact how easily people understand a graph. Normally, people can read position and length more accurately than area or color intensity. And you need to align the data into a common baseline like this. And sometimes you can use color to highlight the difference, not for decoration. And you need to avoid using shapes, size that are hard to compare. For examples, bar charts, which show length, are easier to interpret than a pie chart, which show the angle or area. And you need to use pre-extensive attributes to make your data stand out. These are visual features that make people notice instantly. So what are pre-extensive attributes? This means the things that brain processes can quick respond, which include color, such as red dot in gray range, such as one tall bar among the short ones, and the size, a large circle among the small circles, and the positions, orientation, or shape. These attributes can gain attention quickly to important parts of the data and can help people to spot trends, outliers, or comparison faster. For example, this graph contains color, pattern, and the value labels, which are the pre-attentive attributes. So let's see how color, length, and size compare in helping people understand the data. You put the data like this in the table, and then you make it as a bar chart and make it as a bubble. So which one is easy? Which one is easier? So maybe this one because you can uh look at the length and can answer the question. If I ask you which types of the categories show the highest sale. So what happened? If we use the bubble and color and put side by side with the bar chart and see which is easier to use. So the question is bar chart still the easier when you need to interpret the results. And can you guess? If the area of F is 100, and what about G? And if the length of A is 100, what about C? So people are much better at comparing the length of bar from a common baseline than they are at comparing the area of circles. So maybe this is the better one. So this is a mystery map. So what do the circles encode? The circles represent some kind of quantity, such as population, usage, or another measurable factor. Whatever this map is trying to show, we can see that there is a way more of its happenings in California, and that is useful. Why we can make precise comparison, the map can give us a very helpful overview. So this show 10 pre-attentive attributes that are commonly used in data visualization, which include length, width, size, shape, orientation, enclosure, grouping, position, color situations, or the highlight color. So you may be wondering, so which one are the best? It should be chosen appropriately according to the data and the context of use. However, there is another very potent pre-attentive attribute that is a motion or the animation. So this shows the table of the pre-attentive attributes. Describe for each attribute and an example. Patterns and details. When data is detailed, the use of several charts is the preferred way to show correlation. For example, heat maps are very useful because the audience can easily understand them. This map shows the change in obesity rates among adults in US over 3 years. If you can see, this shows 3 years, and the color shading represents the percentage of adults in each state, which classify them as obese. And make start at 0. When you create any chart, graph, or visual that use a measurement axis, it is strongly recommended to start the axis as 0. Starting from 0, make sure the visual representation shows the two sides of the data. But if the axis does not start at 0, small difference in data can seem much bigger or misleading. For example, these two figures. This one starts at 0 and this one starts at 250, which can alter the visualization of the data. And Look at this figure. If this bar show 7 million, how about this one? If you look at this, maybe 3 or 2.5 million, right? But it's 6. So this news graphic is so misleading. Even though the values are very close, 6 and 7, the gap between the bars look much bigger. So this happens because the axis does not start at the zero, making the difference seem larger than it is. So you need to make it like this to start at a zero. And you need to use comparable range. When using multiple visualization, you need to keep the range in the data of the data the same between variables. Using different visual tools together on the same page may help the audience quickly compare data like this. You need to keep the range of the data the same between variables. And next, connect the dot. When time series data, sequential data is displayed, you need to use line to connect each dot. The aspect ratio of graph height and width can tell better visualize rates of change. The slope of graph data by blanking line segments of a graph data set 245 is recommended. For example, this graph and this graph. You need to connect the data for displaying time sequence data. And sometimes you need to adjust the ratio that helps visualize rates of change better for this graph and this graph. At you can see if you can adjust the slope, you can easier to see the difference between the data. And colors need to have a purpose. The types of data and relationship to the color should be considered. You need to use lighter tint with low values and use the darker one with the higher values. Con contrasting colors should not be useful for, sorry, contrasting colors should not be used for categories of data if there is no relationship to the color. Color should help to tell the story and not be used just to make presentation colorful. Compare this to graph. Bar graph with 5 categories of data should not be color coded unless the color corresponds to a variable. ก็คือกราฟแท่งนะคะที่มี5ข้อมูลเนี่ยเราไม่ควรที่จะใช้สีแตกต่างกันนะถ้าเกิดมันไม่ตรงกับตัวแปรที่ใช้ so the overuse of color can be distracting. And this show the colors as a specific purpose. For the first one, categorical. Each color is distinct and should be used when displaying unrelated categories. ที่บอกไปนะคะถ้าเกิดสมมติว่าเราใช้แบบหมวดแตกต่างกันหรืออะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะสามารถที่จะใช้สีแตกต่างกันได้ Sequential. You need to use lighter colors for the lower values and the darker colors for the higher values. ก็เป็นการไล่สีนะคะข้อมูลที่มีค่าน้อยไปค่ามากอะไรประมาณนี้ and then diverging colors are presented in opposite directions from a midpoint such as profit and loss ก็คือเราจะมีจุดกึ่งกลางอยู่นะคะจะมีสีไปทางซ้ายสีไปทางขวา and highlight this used for emphasize in charts or highlighting key data points And for alert, when want to highlight something that require immediately attention or action, that require immediate attention or reaction. So this table show color types in a data visualization. For example, categorical color. This show 34 countries of Asia and code by the different divisions of a sport tournament. Different colors can represent different group of the sport tournament like this. And this easy for viewer to quickly understand the grouping of countries or the tournament's categories, especially when viewed on a map. ก็คือการไอเนี้ยหมวดหมู่แตกต่างกันเราก็เลยต้องใช้สีให้มันแตกต่างกันนะคะอย่างอันเนี้ยค่ะเราต้องเขากรุ๊ปออกมาว่าเป็นการจัดประเทศตามการแข่งขันกีฬาอย่างเงี้ยค่ะสปอร์ตทัวร์นาเมนต์เขาก็จะใช้สีอย่างนี้เลยก็คือแยกตามหมวดหมู่ไปเลย and then sequential color use different shades of the same color to reflect the measure you are trying to show that can help you to see a pattern in the data. It is easier to understand how values change across a given length and recognize patterns in the data. This can improve the clarity and insights of the visualization. And for the diverging color, this used to show the values that are above or below a midpoint. So sometimes the midpoint does not have to be a zero. This is the reference values allow which the data diverge like this. So you need to put the color on both sides. Highlight and alert colors. Use them to instantly gain attention to something you want people to notice. And you can use the alert color to suggest that may be a cause for concern. So for highlight and alert color, this can guide the viewer attention to the most important data, whether it's something to highlight or something that needs urgent attention. And please use blue and orange because 1 in 10 men or 1 in 100 women suffer from late green color blindness. This map show how the late green color blindness people would see. So it's hard to distinguish between them. And this show the traffic light color. And for the color vision deficiency people, so you need to modify color and the results will be like this. And the next visualization tools. There are many types of tools. The first one, presenting tables. Tables should be clear on their own without needing to refer to material in paragraphs to understand them. So it needs to easy to read and understand. Clear title, query label, row, and column. Present multiple data points in an easy to understand way. When proportion, grades, or percentage are used in a table together with frequency, then must be easy to distinguish from one another. ก็คืออย่างนี้นะคะอย่างเช่นตารางเนี่ย there are many variable. So there are many variation and there are two groups and they put the frequencies and the percentage. So you need to separate between frequency and percentage like this. And as I mentioned before, tables are useful when you want to present the data with multiple variables. And for the tips, you need to leave plenty of white space and avoid using too many columns. Clearly label columns and make sure they are present when users scroll it. And sometimes you can provide link or two tips to additional information about the measures. For the bar charts, it make quicker conclusion by comparing side by side length. This shows the relationship between two variables, quantitative and qualitative or quantitative variables in group. So this can represent relationships between more than two variables. For example, this shows the relationship between mortalities caused by cancers and year. And this shows the relationship between prevalence of self-reported breathlessness among school children and two possible causative factors. There are many types of bar chart: verticals, horizontal bar chart, group bar charts form different categories, or sometimes you can use color to show the different data types. The purpose of data of a bar chart is to make data easy to understand at glance. The length of the bar should directly correspond to the frequencies of value they present, which allow users to quickly compare and interpret the data without confusion. The next one, stack bar chart. In stack bar chart, each bar is divided into segments, which each segment represents a different categories or part of the whole. The height of the bar represents the total value, while the individual segment within the bar show the contribution of each category into the total. For comparing multiple instances or and variations of the same part of the whole อันนี้เป็นแผ่นภูมิแบบเป็นเชิงซ้อนนะคะก็จะเห็นว่าเขาจะแบบเป็นอันเนี้ยก็คือความยาวเนี่ยคือเป็น total ของเขาเลยเป็นจำนวนทั้งหมดแต่ว่าเนี่ยก็จะเห็นได้ว่าเขาก็จะสับมาเรื่อยๆว่ามีอะไรบ้าง horizontal and vertical bar chart. The important thing is you need to check the labels on the x-axis at the bottom. Sometimes you need to fix all the text. You need to display it as the vertical or diagonal. However, both of them are hard to read, but sometimes you do need it. So sometimes you can put the reference line like this. You can see the above or the below average. And for the store, sometimes you can put a goal reference line like this. So you can see which store performs above and below their individual goals. These are above and these are below. Sometimes you can also do the color code like this. So this means this show the below goal. And next, pair bar chart. This can use to compare a single measure for two segments, but it's not be able to display more than two sets of data very well, like this. For the bar-in bar chart, this is a more compact than pair bar chart. It's compared two data sets within a single bar, which one bar placed inside the other, and this still not able to display more than two data sets ก็คือเป็นแท่งซ้อนแท่งนะคะก็จะเห็นว่าอันนึงไปอยู่ในอันนึงเลยแต่อันนี้มันจะแบบดูยากหน่อยนึง People are a little better at judging position than they are estimating the length. So sometimes these charts use dots along an axis to show the data points, which make it easier to compare the values like this. So you can see the position, and sometimes you can answer the question. If I ask you which store locations show the highest sales. Horizontal gaps charts. These are effective in visualizing difference across distinct segments using multiple measures. The charts display the gaps of difference between the values for each segment making it easier to compare and contrast their relative performance or characteristics. For example, a connected dot plot shows the difference between 2019 and 2018 across the multiple categories. So this shows the gap. So that's why this called horizontal gap chart. The comma chart. When showing changes between two periods or in situations with other data, such as older to newer, junior to senior, the chart typically use a line or path to show the movement from one point to another, like this. So you can use as a forward or the backward. Line graph, this is the common one that you use in diary, I think. Line graphs are ideal for showing trends and changes over time. This helps visualize how a particular variable evolve from one period to the next, like this. So you need to avoid the confusion by using less than 5 lines. Pie charts. This can be used to display the relative proportions of different parts of a whole, and each slide represents a segment of the total value. It can be difficult for readers to differentiate among similar size. So tips, you need to use a 5 or maybe fewer slides, and pie charts work well when presenting large difference among data. And the small slides are difficult to read, and slide difference are difficult to explain. And you need to compare. You don't need, sorry, you please don't compare the data sets with side by side pie chart ก็คือว่าเราไม่ควรที่ใช้แผนภูมิวงกลมหลายๆชิ้นมาวางข้างกันแล้วก็เปรียบเทียบกันนะคะ And the donut charts. Donut charts are similar to pie charts as they display the proportional segments of a whole, but in the form of a ring, a circle with a hole in the center. This is a much more difficult comparison, and it would be even harder if the number were not in the center of the donut, like this. Scatter diagrams or scattergrams. This can display values for typically two variables for a set of data. Each point on the graph represents one data point, which is position determined by the values of the variables being plotted. Scatter plots can be improved by using various color, shapes, or sizes. And this chart is perfect for showing correlation or pattern between variables. So you can put the 10 lines and the color. That make it easier to notice trend, outliers, and clusters. Sometimes in the scatter diagrams, with a large number of data points, many dots may overlap, make it difficult to see the true distribution of the data. This overlap can make the data seem like there are fewer points than there are. To show this data, you can randomly jitter the dots, left and right, to better understand how many there are and where they are grouped. ก็อันนี้นะคะอย่างที่เห็นว่าไอแผนภูมิแบบเนี้ยค่ะบางทีอะข้อมูลอย่างเงี้ยจุดข้อมูลมันอยู่ติดกันเกินไปมันแบบมันแน่นอยู่ตรงเนี้ยค่ะเราอาจต้องกระจายซ้ายกระจายขวาซึ่งเนี่ยเราเรียกว่าเป็นการกระจายเราจะเรียกว่า jitter and block plots. Block plots are used to display the distributions of numerical data by breaking it down into quartiles. This helps visualize how the data is distributed across the lower, middle, and upper range. This also have a whisker, like this, whisker, which indicates variability outside the upper and the lower quartile. Sometimes we can call as box and whisker plot. Sometimes the outliers may be plotted as individual points, like this. ก็คือเป็นการ แสดงข้อมูลแบบแบ่งเขาออกมาเป็นคอไทล์นะคะคอไทล์1 2 3 4แล้วก็เนี่ยเราก็จะมีวิสเกอร์ซึ่งวิสเกอร์เนี่ยก็คือจะยื่นออกมาโชว์ว่าอะไรที่มันอยู่ข้างบนคอไทล์อันไหนที่มันอยู่ข้างล่างคอไทล์แล้วก็จะมีเอาไลน์ออกมานะคะก็คือเป็นข้อมูลที่ไม่อยู่ในในคอไทล์พวกนี้ที่แบบหลุดออกมาเลย color map and field map. For example, in these types of the tools, heat maps allow for quick geographic comparisons of data. This can show the relative performance, and color can be used to divide area into two or more categories. For example, color maps can be used for the public health data visualization, such as the spread of disease, vaccination list, and the access of the healthcare ก็คือไอเนี่ยค่ะเป็นแผนภูมิแบบโคโลพีทไอเนี่ยส่วนมากเราจะใช้ดูเกี่ยวกับแนวโน้มทางภูมิศาสตร์ซึ่งเราใช้ได้หลายงานเลยอย่างในงานปกติอย่างเงี้ยค่ะเราดูว่าเคสโควิดอะในเพนซิลเวเนียเนี่ยเป็นยังไงบ้างก็คือเราก็จะเห็นได้เลยว่าตามพื้นที่แต่ละพื้นที่อะเราเจอเคสมากน้อยแค่ไหน And the next one, proportional symbol maps. This use symbols such as bubble or icons to show data points on a map. This can help visualize statistics across geographic regions and allow for easy comparison. And the size of each symbol correspond to the data it represents. Larger symbols indicate higher values, and the small show the lower values. ก็คือขนาดของสัญลักษณ์นะคะจะสอดคล้องกับค่าของข้อมูลนั่นเอง And one common problem with this map is the smaller geographic regions. Symbol may overlap, making it difficult to interpret the data accurately. So you need to use appropriate symbol size and making symbols slightly transparent that can help to reduce overlap and for better visualization in the crowded area. Free maps. Free maps are useful for visualizing of the complex or abstract concepts by using rectangles. Each representing a different category or subcategory. Tree maps can help to break down complex information into a visual format that is easier to understand. And this map work well when you need to compare the relative importance or size of multiple items that are organized in structure. Pinpoint maps. This become popular with the increase of data that has a precise geographic coordination. In healthcare, pinpoint maps work well to show clusters of disease and find health service delivery locations. So this show the map, the smart map for the COVID-19 investigation and action and monitor effectiveness. Dashboards. This for giving a quick overview of key figures on a single page. This can contain tables, charts, graphs, and the other data visualizations. So you need to do as less is more by creating clean design with limited data points and using minimal visualization to avoid confusion and false focus. So this is a powerful tool for summarizing and communicating key information quickly and efficiently. Infographics. Infographics combine data and design to tell the stories and offer various formats and styles to fit different contents and audience. Infographics come in many forms, such as digital postcards or the photo or the icon. Statics and interactive visualization. For the static, this requires the less effort and the expertise to create and include numbers, charts, maps, and display in a way that are easy to share. The simple tools such as pencil, paper, Excel, Photoshop, and Google Sheets. But the interactive, this require higher level of effort and expertise. For example, this map allow user to search for more detailed data. And the next, benefits of data visualization. First, it can make data digestible and easy to understand because a large set of numbers can be difficult to interpret and find a meaning behind. So the data visualization allows you to group and organize data, making it easier to break it down into understandable chunks. And non-specialists can also understand the complex information as well. For example, if you are not in this field, but you can list this data, so it makes you more understand. And the next benefit, identity, trends, and outlines. Charts make it easier to identify of trends. By representing data, it's become much easier to interpret. A pie chart can instantly show the proportionals of different categories, while a scatter plot can highlight relationship between variation. And this can allow decision maker to understand data much further. Charts make presentations more interesting and help the audience understand complex data easily. For example, this graph shows a big increase in the interest of the toilet paper. If you can observe that during COVID-19, this shows the increase of the toilet paper. And data visualization is not just about displaying number, but it tells a story that communicates the context behind the data. So a well-designed chart can impact a decision or even the consequence of certain actions and can make the data feel more relevant and important. And the use of color, shapes, and visual can also trigger emotions and help viewers connect with the data. For example, the color red might represent danger or urgency, while blue can like a sense of calmness. For example, this poster, a goat is more than just a goat. It highlights that how much milk a goat can produce over time, and this can emphasize their contributions to dairy production. You can create an infographics to compare two opposite viewpoints by highlighting the main points, evidence, and implications of each side. And infographics are preferred for showing the different product or service options. It can detail their features, benefits, and pricings in a simple format, so the consumer can easier to compare and choose the best option for their need. And this can be used to present an objective overview on any subjects, such as the advantage or disadvantage. or pro and con. And it can highlight an important point in a set of data. Data visualization can be used to encourage leaders to come to a specific conclusion. Using shapes, symbols, or color to highlight important area on a page, like this. So if you look at this figure, so first you can mention this one at glance. And the last one, data visualization in healthcare. You can use to predict a patient health status with fitness apps or the biosensors, which can track patients' real-time physiological data. And then the physicians can collect this data and integrate them into the patient's electronic health record. So they can predict our patient's health status. For example, visualization of a patient heart rate over time can reveal the heart abnormality. And the next, this can help to understand health and related quantitative data. For example, the CDC or the Centers for Disease and Control visualize quantitative data by graphing weekly COVID-19 associated hospitalization rate between March and November 2020. So you can understand this data. And you need to, and you can improve or accelerate hospital performance. This can help the hospitals to make decisions to improve the performance. For example, this can include the patient wait time, admission list, treatment costs, and types of the medical conditions. And then the committees can look at this data and can make the decisions that can improve the performance and can help to choose appropriate health intervention. So far, scientists have used various data visualization tools to track the number of COVID-19 cases and deaths. Visualizing and analyzing this data can highlight the urgency of the research that around the US Food and Drug Administration or FDA to approve the use of Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And the public health data visualization also helped the officials to decide when to enforce the health rules. Public health officials have enforced mask wearing rules based on data visualization dashboards. So this show the cumulative COVID-19 test, confirmed case and the deaths per million people in Italy. So they need to make a rule for mask wearing. So you need to do the post-test, and the post-test will be closed on Monday, 28th July. So don't forget to do that. I also put the publication material in Thai in the e-learning, so you can read if you want more detail. Okay, so bye bye.